Welcome to the new normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Litecoin Lisa, and today I have my friend William. You guys know him as I am we to talk about some critical thinking ideas and current events. And I have to tell you, like, there's no victims here, but you must put on your critical thinking cap because we're tired of all this victimhood and all the rest of that. So jump in with us, jump in the live chat, give us a like and a share, and let us know your thoughts. I'll be right back with I Am for I Am right after this. Welcome back. How are you?
I'm busy. I'm chatting with everyone in the chat. Lisa,
Oh, good.
you gotta wait on me, and
we have some good people in the chat there.
yes,
Yeah.
we do. Yes, we do.
Definitely.
How are you, Lisa?
I'm good. I'm like learning and digging up more information all the time and coming across new things. So that's exciting for me. I think it's an exciting time right now.
I came to a roadblock, a dead end. There's no more new information out there.
Not me. Every time I turn the page, I'm like, oh, there's more.
No kidding, right?
Yeah.
The more,
but I do
the more
feel
you learn, the more you know you don't know.
Yes. And the more that I feel like there's a divide from, I watched this quick reel on Facebook or something, and it was like, knowing that you've shifted timelines. And it's like, people in your former life don't make sense to you, and they don't understand you either. And you're okay with that, you know?
I know.
So
I know.
it's okay. Yeah.
Do you feel like you're behind there pushing books, trying to tell your daughter where you're at from?
Some days I do. Some days I know I'm trying to send a message, and some people don't want to listen, and some people choose to hold that victim card so closely that they don't want to hear the truth. They and they don't want to be open to asking questions. There's been several times where upon me thinking one direction, in fact, many times in my life, thinking one direction was a path. And then as I got closer to that, what I thought was going forward, I found out the light was coming from over here. And I was supposed to turn and look over here. But had I never walked forward, I never would have known, never gotten far enough to turn, and to see that other pathway. And so I think that as long as you're asking questions and challenging things and have a critical kind of mindset, it's when people want to like shut down and just say, oh, poor me, and
Right.
not be part of the solution. I can't be a part of that. So
of course, everything you just said just went in one ear and out the other, because all I heard was One Direction, and I'm thinking of the boy band, right?
oh,
the One
yeah,
Direction.
I guess it was a boy band.
It's a boy band, right? One Direction.
I don't know. I wasn't really into all that pop culture stuff. So
no, it did it again.
So I think that you are hitting your table
and it's knocking it. Yeah,
you're pulling a Westwood. Yes. So when
it's called the Westwood.
Yeah, it's called the Westwood. So when we go out on like remote or whatever, to meetups or whatever, if I have a like a fob kind of thing or device plugged into my computer,
right,
and then he bangs the table, it somehow like disconnects my things that are also connected in there. I don't know.
So that's what's happening.
I believe that's what's happening because I heard a little bang. But
Westwood.
There you go. Pulling Westwood. Now we know.
Now we know. I keep my hands to myself.
I know. Cannon's doing his science fair presentation officially tomorrow to the judges. No parents are allowed. Yeah, I'm super excited for him. He got to interview Bixweir for it because he's doing like this Will Silver keep milk from spoiling. So Bixweir was one of his experts for one of his resources. And so we have this cutest little video of him asking Bix all these questions. I'll have to release it so everybody can see it. I'll make sure to ask Bix and Cannon about it. But
his consent.
It is consent.
Oh, there's an NDA on that one, Lisa.
It's very official. High secret. Speaking of secrets.
There's no secrets. There are no secrets. Not in our government, anyway.
Not in our government. I did think it was interesting that, Trump did this. He did several EOs, many EOs, but one of them was to release the information on JFK, RFK, and MLK. But then they put these weird contingencies where it's like, but then 15 days to release this, and then another 45 days of that. And so it puts us like March or something.
Wait, who put the contingencies on?
Ooh, good question. I don't know.
And on which one? On which of the three? Or
That's
is it all three like this? Didn't they know that Trump was going to win? They should have been working on this in October.
I think Trump knew.
It was a promise that Trump made.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he knew he was going to win. I'm pretty sure he's been working on this for a while. We'll see.
I'm sure the CIA knew too.
Yeah.
And they know who won in 2020. I'm just saying.
I think we all do. Which is why I'm a little confused, like how he can continue to serve. But I did hear a Tucker Carlson interview that with Matt Taibbi, and said, what some of my questions would be, well, then who has been president for the last 4 years? Like, if we want to play Normie Land and pretend like Trump's not the CIC, we want to pretend like the Biden administration was really in charge. We can play Normie Land for a minute. Then
I can't. Keep going. I'm sorry. I'm trying.
So they're pretending.
Right.
So then the questions are to the Normie Land. Then your president was found to be incompetent to stand trial towards the end of the presidency. So from that point forward, and possibly even before that, who was writing all these orders? Who was making these tweets? Who was making these decisions? Who was bringing these documents to him to sign?
Right.
And whether he signed them or a secretarial signature. I just learned about that on a thrifting video thing. They said, oh no, that's a secretarial signature. That's a Mickey Mantle signature. That means it was done for him by an official resource. Do we have some secretarial signatures there?
Good question.
I don't
know. Well, I think the legitimacy of the government is in question, but it certainly doesn't. That's just recent news or recent questions. Let's go all the way back to, how about, JFK?
Mm-hmm.
Was LBJ involved? And if so, that would make everything the LBJ did unauthorized.
So how do you undo something?
Yeah. How do you undo that? Or if, as some people out there might think, that there is a certain birth certificate that might not be valid or authentic, and a certain president isn't really a U.S. citizen. So therefore, what happened during those 8 years?
Right. Well,
it's a lot to unpack. It's like a time machine. You need a time machine to undo all that.
And you have to go back and forward, because even since then, so Trump has made his EO on birthright citizenship.
Oh, you guys talk about that.
Also backed up by an old court case.
Which one are you thinking of?
It's like Kim,
the last name Ark.
Wong Kim Ark.
Wong Kim Ark. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I glanced at it this afternoon. I didn't really look at it, but let me see if I got the facts right.
Okay.
He was born here in the U.S. His parents were Chinese, had been in the U.S. for 20 years, but were not U.S. citizens. They were Chinese citizens.
Correct.
he grows up here. At age 21, he goes to China to visit family. He comes back to San Francisco. They won't let him in the country because they say, you're not a born citizen. You're not a citizen of the US.
You're not a citizen.
Right. So it goes to court. He loses. On appeal, he wins. The appeal is at a federal court, of course, and that helps write precedents that someone who is born here is a US citizen, even if their parents were not citizens. That's what that court case, I thought now,
Okay, that's
am I
the
right or wrong on that?
Kim, is that right? Is that the
Yeah.
Kim?
Ark.
Ark
Is the last
decision
name, A-R-K.
based on decision from 1898. Okay.
Yeah.
You
You looking for that?
Yeah. Today, the contesting side. Okay, the courts misconstrued what the writers of the 14th Amendment intended with subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and the amendment framers understood the children of illegal aliens. Oh, okay. I don't think that's right. I think they, wait, he was limited because parents were legally in the United States. Yeah, his parents were here legally. So because it's my understanding that his parents were here legally, and so that's why the United States acknowledges other countries. And that's why he was told, you cannot be here.
Right. But the Supreme Court then overruled a previous case that said that on a 6-2 decision, ruled in favor of Wong Kim Ark that he was a citizen.
Oh.
Because the original 14th Amendment was for the slaves, correct?
Right, so, but they were here legally.
Well, that was the question, because were they? The part being that, not that they weren't here legally. I'm sorry. The point being that they're, as slaves, they're actually not citizens. So therefore, the children are not citizens because their parents were not citizens. So the 14th Amendment was to resolve that issue and say, no, they are citizens, even though their parents weren't citizens, shall we say, as they were seeing it in those times. That's what I understood that was supposed to fix. And then the Wong Kim Ark case took it beyond the original intent was for the children of the slaves. That's what I understood.
Okay.
And that, like I'm reading here, the case affirmed the principle that the right of soil, jus soli, in the U.S., where citizen is granted based on the place of birth rather than the nationality or status of their parents. So that was the jus soli. I guess it's Latin, right of the soul. The soil.
Where a child is born to illegal parents.
And it says, it has been the foundation in interpreting the scope of birthright citizenship in the U.S., although debates and legal challenges persist regarding certain exceptions or interpretations. Yeah, and I know I've seen it where, a kid was born, maybe just days after their parents crossed illegally and grew up here, went to the public schools. They're 17, 18, and they believe themselves to be citizens, but they don't have a legal status, or shall we say a legal, what's the word I want? A legal document that states that they're a U.S. citizen. So if they get caught breaking the law or something, they then get deported. But the only language they know, the only culture they know, they identify as an American citizen. They don't identify with another country that they're deported to. That's tough. How do you how do you reconcile that is in a fair,
I
just,
think they were saying like
common sense
because
way?
they're not disacknowledging the parent's citizenship. Like their parents have citizenship somewhere else, and their
Right,
parents never chose to become United States citizens. So how could their children then be United States citizens if
right,
they're born to people who, I mean, that's like me saying, "Oh, I'm going to cross into Canada, and while I'm there on vacation, I pop a baby out, and now my baby's Canadian."
right.
That's ridiculous.
It's exactly
It's
how,
Canada not acknowledging my citizenship, and
right.
so that
Yeah,
then
and that's what the Supreme Court decisions, 6-2 ruling in favor of Wong Kim Ark stated. If in the case that this was, let's say, the Supreme Court in Canada would state that your child is a Canadian citizen, even though you weren't there legally or had legal status or legal reasons to be in Canada, your child is a Canadian.
right.
That that's the concept here. Um, of the case, or I should say, how from that case forward was the pivotal point to create precedents that went beyond the original intent of the 14th Amendment. That's how I'm reading it.
Okay.
But I'm trying to be, how can I say, I'm trying to be objective here. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
insert my particular opinion or viewpoint for everyone that's listening. I'm trying to be objective as possible. Um, it sure comes down to the reason why we need a secure border, right? And
Yeah.
then, and or the child that is, the parent is here on, has a legal entry on a vacation visa,
Mhm.
and the parent has the baby. Now the baby, forgive me if I'm wrong here, but most Western based law or Western countries would say that that child has an option for dual citizenship,
Oh,
um,
really?
providing the where they were born, that location, that country, of their physical birth is allowing them to also register as a citizen. But then other countries say no, there is no dual citizenship. You can only pick one.
Yeah, it's my
And much
understanding that
later
the
in
United
life,
States doesn't acknowledge dual citizenship.
right? And much later in life, then someone might say, well, actually, technically, I was born here and I'm willing to renounce my citizenship over here and come to your country and accept my citizenship here if you'll so grant it based on the proof that I was born here. Um, and then records are validated or found to be
If
not
you were
true like
brought
that.
here illegally to be born here, do you think that
Well,
that justifies, if
the
you were
court case that was ruled 6-2 is pretty clear. It it doesn't say, it doesn't have anything to do, if from what I'm understanding, it doesn't really have much to do with the parents' um, uh,
status, whether
status.
they're
It,
legal or
yeah,
illegal?
it is their rule is, again, I'm going to use, and how others have interpreted it and allowed
Mhm.
it, as the Latin word julis soli, right of the soil. So where you're born is where your citizenship is determined. But but see, it's, I think what's going to happen is Trump is going to push this issue. People on the other side of the aisle are going to push this issue, and it's
Mhm.
going to fall back to the Supreme Court, and rightly so. It needs to be. It
Because
needs
it
to be
needs
ruled,
clarity.
and determined, the law of the land, once and for all, without any ambiguity. You know,
Yeah, I
and
guess there was an opinion, that excluding, so it says, opinion said the 14th Amendment clause fell in line with British and American common law and settled law when it came to people born in the United States as having claims to citizenship, with the exceptions of children of foreign ministers, enemy combatants on
Yes.
American soil, and people on public foreign ships.
Right.
So that's an interesting statement with people, if illegal immigrants are considered terrorists or enemy combatants, with today they're firing shots at the border patrol. Well, it's not even border patrol, it's US military that's on the border today.
Right.
Could they move into that enemy combatant niche?
Well, that's I'm going to say is above my pay grade.
Yeah. There's a lot of interpretation.
I certainly wouldn't want to be on that border to make that decision.
Yeah.
Let's go get them, boys.
No, there's a lot of interpretation in this.
Yeah.
It's an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah, it is, right? But, which, if you don't mind, can we dovetail into this whole citizenship from a different angle?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you don't mind moving away from this topic,
Mm-hmm.
Roger Ver.
Yeah.
And his recent release of a video today, it's a 20-minute video. Boy, I really, really encourage everyone to go find it, and you'll see it actually in my post. I retweeted it, but it's 20 minutes, and I'm Roger K. Ver, and this is my story.
Yes.
And I'll be honest with you, the presentation, because it's kind of like a 20-minute documentary, it's going to give you a good history of who he is and how he got to where he's at right now. Many of you who don't, if there's anyone in the chat that doesn't know who Roger Ver is, he was, and he does not like it, given the nickname Bitcoin Jesus, because he was the very first person in the entire world to invest in a business for in Bitcoin, a Bitcoin business. So it's one thing to invest in Bitcoin. It's another thing to take it and create businesses around Bitcoin. Your wallets, for example, that you use on Litecoin or Digibyte or Bitcoin, all of that incubated from Roger Ver. We have to, if you're a Bitcoin maxi and hate the man, that's fine. You have you have that right to choose and believe that way, but you have to give credit where credit's due. He was the very first person to start investing and giving seed money. He seed money. He gave a lot of the seed money to the Brownstone Institute. He gave the seed money for Ripple, believe it or not. He gave a lot of money, I think, for LBRY, and to give that fight against YouTube. He created, he was one of, if not the largest contributor to the whole Free Ross Ulbricht campaign. So he is a force of free speech, and he's a force of a strong libertarian viewpoint, and he's a strong voluntarist. He's a peace advocate. So having said all that, this video I really encourage you to watch, because it shows how, as a 21-year-old, he became victim of lawfare from the U.S. government at such a young age.
No, it's terrible.
And it started because he ran for state assembly in the state of California. He grew up in Silicon Valley and as a libertarian, and he in a debate he stated that the ATF, killed women and children in Waco, Texas. And from that point on, he fell under the wrath of the Department of Justice in his early 20s. And they came after him with a fireworks charge. I'm not going to give it all up, but as soon as he served prison time for that, even though many people were selling, at the time you could buy ammunition on eBay.
And in their deposition, they said that they would have normally, his attorney was arguing, usually like somebody's, like you said, they're selling these munitions on, Cabela's was selling it
Yes.
all day, every day. No one's going after Cabela's, but they're going to go after this teenager at the time. And they said, you didn't hear what he said about us and Waco or something like that.
Yes.
And that was why they went after him. It was absolutely lawfare. And we're seeing this over and over play out.
Right. And so, and his prison, his stories that he talks about in prison, it's not a happy place for anybody. But if you're a law-abiding citizen and you're calling out the government for all of its evil doings, and now the government comes after you at such a young age, his brain hadn't even completed its developmental stages. Most men don't develop until they're 25. So that whole reason and logic function, that happens in their mid-20s is when the brain for a male finishes its development. He wasn't even at that point, and the government was coming after him, to an incredible degree, and it scared him. He was scared, to death, to be honest with you. And he said, if they're going to treat me like this, and they're going to constantly come after me, or I have the fear every night
in jail. They tortured him in jail with false accusations. Some guard pretended to hide a knife on him during a body search just to scare him. And they waited till he was a kid sobbing in the corner and he was about to get out. And they did this shakedown, pretended to plant a knife on him. And then they said, oh, just kidding.
Right.
Just to put that fear in him.
Yeah, it's horrible. So so this is where it comes into the citizenship. So now he says, no, I'm going to work my way to try to renounce my citizenship because I can't change the system from within. And I'm in fear of my life that they're going to come back at me again because I'm not going to change my political viewpoints and I'm not going to be silenced. So he did everything he could. And he discovered Bitcoin during this time, and he made a lot of money. But he was already a wealthy man before Bitcoin came along. He was quite the entrepreneur. So once Bitcoin came along, 2014, he gets through all of his paperwork and sells off assets to pay his exit tax, his extortion tax, which is also a capital gains tax, unrealized capital gains tax, which is another whole, people are talking about Kamala remember unrealized gains tax?
Yes, unrealized gains tax. Yeah, people forget.
Yeah. When you renounce your citizenship, you have to have unrealized gain tax. You have to take all of your assets, and whatever that is, you have to take like it's a capital gain. And you're going to end up having to sell all of those assets or a portion thereof to make that exit payment the day before your renouncement. So that's what he did. He said, listen, to his accountants and his attorneys, dot the I's, cross the T's. They're going to come after me because they've already have come after me. And I don't want any problem. Well, 2014, Bitcoin wasn't what it is today. It wasn't even in the IRS legal book. Is it a currency? Is it a commodity? Is it a what is it? So it wasn't even defined yet. And then he hired another attorney and consultant to go back and look over their paperwork just so that it was correct and right. And they still came after him. But they came after him just prior to the statutes of limitations. And now Bitcoin has developed, it's changed. And so they're saying, oh, no. You didn't pay us enough. So how does he get faced 109 years? It's insane. 30 years for each mail fraud, for each time he mailed in his tax records, his W-2 or his 1040, whatever. He mailed it 3 times. One year he had mailed a second time.
Yeah.
So that's 30, 60, 90 years.
At their request. That was at their request
Yes.
because they lost it. And so then they want to charge him a second time because they requested he remail it or resubmit it. And so he got an additional charge.
Right.
It's insane.
It is. It's insane. And so they're calling it mail fraud for him mailing in his tax returns. Talk about lawfare. So this man, from the age 21 up until, today, and I think he's in his mid to late 40s, that's all he knows. He knows lawfare. It gets even worse. They actually raid his attorney's office and accountant's office, and the IRS does, and takes all of his documents, violating client attorney privilege.
Mm-hmm.
And they lie in their documents to the Spanish government for extradition, stating that he was a tax cheat and all this, and he was trying to, based off of the documents that we received from his attorney, he was trying to, evade taxes, when it's just the exact opposite. It's documented that he is telling them, I want this right because they're going to come after me. Yeah. They've been coming after me all my life. That's all I know. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. So,
and this is kind of an Al Capone thing. Like, people think Al Capone went away for, bootlegging and whatever, when it was really for tax evasion. Well, Roger Ver wasn't doing any kind of tax evasion, but they got him on mail fraud that they requested. I mean, the whole thing is just insane, really.
And so anyway, I know there's a lot of people out there that say, you renounced, so therefore we're done with you. You're on your own, buddy. But if he's renounced, 10 years after he's renounced, now the IRS is coming after him, but he's no longer a U.S. citizen. Hello? It doesn't seem to apply here.
How could they have jurisdiction over him?
So Elon Musk on Sunday or Saturday tweets.
I did not know this.
He tweets about Roger Ver. He says, no pardon for Roger. He renounced his citizenship. Membership has its privileges. So you have to be a member to have the privilege of a pardon, when there's a lot of history there, multiple presidents doing pardons for non-U.S. citizens. So,
wow.
And so he's saying that, no, you renounced your citizenship, so no pardon for you. Well, wait a minute. What happened to actual equal justice under the law? What happened to, Lady Justice having a full blindfold, and the scales aren't tilted one way or the other? I if anyone would understand it, would be Trump from the lawfare. And that is the whole reason Roger left this country, was because of lawfare. He didn't feel he was going to ever get a fair shake, or he would just get locked up again for whatever reason. They would find something, because now, remember, he now has a felony conviction. And I don't think his attorney ever thought that maybe 30 days, not a year, in federal prison. And nobody ever in the U.S. has been a felony for selling fireworks. And it's ironic. Some say that PayPal was even involved. Isn't that ironic? PayPal, and it's come back to
and now Elon he was part of PayPal, and then they want that to be possibly like the rails for the Everything app payment and all that. That's all connected if you look at the history of all that.
Yeah, I can see how people would want absolutely nothing to do with Roger, or would care less about this case because he renounced his citizenship, because that angers a lot of people. That gets people really upset. And I get that. I really do.
But you could also see where the 3-letter agency was not
played by the rules
appropriately. Yeah. And he shouldn't suffer that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Elon makes me question more and more every day. Like, I
Sure
just don't.
does.
I don't think it's a person, first of all. Um,
Yeah, I
and
get you. I get you. A lot of
yeah,
people say him and Zuckerberg. They're
yeah,
not
I
real.
think they are creations of the farm or some form of government that is a front for government
Uh,
corporation entity activities under the guise of private business. It's not private business.
right.
They want people to feel comfortable submitting. If they told you 23andMe was the government collecting your DNA, you would have never swabbed your cheeks and sent in yours and your dogs and your mothers and your kids. But everybody watched some dumb commercial and they want to know that they're related to a pharaoh or a king somewhere. So they're thinking they can be important, so they're going to give up their information. I don't know.
I
And I
know.
know we all do it in different ways, but
Um,
gosh.
you mentioned something else today that for us to talk about was the DeepSeek, the AI, and the AI chip, and all of that.
It's supposed to be open AI and yeah, this new
Yeah,
DeepSeek. And
yeah.
they were saying that like that was maybe that was the reason for the crypto crash. But what I was kind of
Nasdaq.
relating it to was that maybe it wasn't, that it was more, if you look at the timeline of it, it
Uh-huh.
actually falls in line with the Chinese New Year. And so I guess in China, the Chinese New Year tradition is that you get, I think they're red envelopes. I'm pretty sure they're red envelopes, which today was the 27th, which Starlink was supposed to do their beta test for the phone to sell, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we're seeing these releases. That's also called a red envelope. Anyway, just
Yeah.
critical
Crazy.
thinking, everybody. Get all the synapses going. But this DeepSeek was rolled out. It was supposed to be OpenAI. Some people were having trouble with it, whatever, but they're saying that might have caused the Bitcoin price to crash. But if you look at the timeline of it, it's pretty much a China sell-off and then like a US buying back in. So
Right.
I don't know. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this.
Well, my thoughts on the technology. See, here's what's funny is I heard about this like 7 days ago. Maybe no, it was more. I think maybe 10 days ago or something. And I thought, wow, if this is true, that they can do this so much, they can do these chips and AI with at such a lower cost than Grok, Llama, and OpenAI doesn't stand a chance because China's going to overtake it. And then I thought, my thought was, wow, if this information's out there, then the market's going to have a big correction here. And what I do, I look at my phone and I see nothing. I see, NASDAQ hasn't responded. And I go, well, then maybe it's a nothing burger. There's no truth to it. So I'd already filed it away, even forgetting the whole name, DeepSeek or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get this text from my brother. It's like, hey, did you see the Deep State News today? And I go, Deep State News? What? And he said Deep State, but he meant whatever the company name, DeepSeek.
Yeah.
And I go, no, what? Are you talking about Roger Ver? He goes, who's Roger Ver? This is my brother who's just
guys are going back and forth. Who, what?
It's funny. It's like we're not having a conversation. We're on two different we're in two different worlds.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I said, well, I've got a lot going on right now. I'll call you later. So I called him a little bit before we were getting on and I said, hey, so what was this DeepSeek thing you're telling me about? And he starts talking. I go, oh, well, that's what I'd heard. So I was like, why did the market respond today? That was information more than 10 days ago or whatever that had leaked out. And I thought that was really strange that the market opened up today, down from that information supposedly over the weekend, but that was old information from what I was getting. So I was kind of shocked by it. I was taken back. I had no idea that today's downturn was based on that information. So I was
that
kind
makes sense if you're partnering it with Wall Street, but not with Bitcoin's open 24/7,
Right.
So,
yeah, my brother's more on the Wall Street, not on the crypto side of things. But well, Bitcoin took a hit today too, right? So I don't know. So, but you're right. It's 24/7. But I guess the real issue here is it all has to be substantiated, right? And if I'm a Chinese company and I'm partially owned by the Chinese government, um, do I, and we're kind of in this tic tac thing back and forth between the U.S. and China. It's kind of like a shot across the bow, right?
Mhm.
So they put out this information. Hey, we got a better chip than you. We could do energy cheaper than you. Your data centers for all this AI is going to be too costly
Mhm.
because of the chip, and we could do it cheaper. And our energy costs are so much cheaper. You're screwed. And then we shoot across the bow. Well, we're going to throw tariffs on you. And it's kind of this tic tac back and forth kind of thing. And if I was a Chinese and I had this advantage, technological advantage, I might shoot that shot across the bow, but boy, I would double down on that technology and I would really fund it if I was a Chinese, communist government, because I'm telling everybody, and everybody probably already knows this, if your AI gets AGI, general AI, or your AI becomes the dominant AI in the world, that's better than reserve currency, in my opinion, because that means you can produce, create, solve problems, all these things that AI can do faster, cheaper than anybody else. And it's a new gold rush, to be honest with you. It is a rush for computational power, and it's a rush to exceed anybody and everybody in that computational power. It's like it's almost like kind of like the God complex, to be honest with you. And if like, and I use AI all the time, I'm fascinated by it. So if, and I've moved more to Grok now because I've been so disappointed with OpenAI, and
Mhm.
because of the politics, and I see like the influx of Reddit BS. I'm
Yeah,
being
it's very biased.
friendly, or watching my words, uh, versus say, hey, just give me the facts, man.
Mhm.
Dragnet reference. And if that's the case, then if China can outmaneuver us in that technological race, think of it this way: look how big the internet was for us, how it changed the world with the internet. Okay,
Mhm.
AI could do that tenfold, hundredfold. And if they get AGI before we do, we're screwed. So
I think that's why Trump
Did the market react that we're screwed? No.
no. But I think that's why Trump was talking about, like, as these manufacturing, the chip companies, all that kind of stuff, would then come in, they're going to have their own power or resource, like power plant attached to the building or whatever. And before we got started, we were talking about Randall
Carlson.
Carlson.
Yeah,
Um,
I like him.
new find of mine, brilliant mind. I'm super excited. He's all about the numbers. He's 396ing and 432ing, and I'm just so excited. I can't even hardly see straight. I can't wait to go finish the rest of the
Oh,
interview. Um,
his geology stuff is really good too.
yeah, well, and he's doing his latest one on Rumble is the um
The Badlands?
destruction,
Oh,
the Hopi prophecy, the bad
oh, okay, okay.
possibility, the collision. What am I trying to say?
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the asteroid that hit
Yeah.
or a comet that hit maybe Canada, and parts of it created the small lakes in
Oh,
North and
don't
South
tell me anything because I
Carolina.
haven't gone into that part yet.
Oh, okay,
That's my say. That's I've got a
it's
line. I've got a list.
a reset of human of our technology. Kind of
Yeah.
like we were advanced and then we fell, and then we're
Yes.
climbing back up.
I'm climbing back up out of the slime. Yes. That may or may not have to go through DC.
Good stuff. Yeah, yeah. He's a deep rabbit hole, Lisa.
I'm excited about it. I'm really excited about it. I love learning new things.
Yeah.
I also sent we had been talking on a bunch of our friends here get on the Twitter Spaces with Westwood after the happy hour, and we were talking about the Hopi prophecy and some of the things we were tying together with that. And I sent I told them that I'd been watching. Edward Reardon has 2 pretty recent, within the last few months, Hopi prophecy remote viewings, and they talk about the red beard man and whatever, and then he goes through the timelines and a lot of the things that we were talking about like this being the fourth. He literally calls it the fourth world, which we were talking a second ago, and I was telling you about the black box, and that's 4D, like 4 dimension, which all those numbers coincide with the Randall Carlson stuff, with the like 396 stuff. And
the
then
pilgrimage to Mecca, that black box, the black box on a funny hat in Israel.
Yes. All these things.
Yeah, there's some the tie-in there is kind of strange. This is why you can't just stay within just only science lane.
Yeah.
You have to, and that's why I like Randall Carlson, because he wasn't structured in his education with a formal education to just stay in this lane. Like we were saying, a physicist doesn't really interact with a chemist, or a physicist doesn't really interact with a geologist, or these kinds of things. They just stay within their lanes.
Right. Well, and he's talking about leveraging our technology, pretty quickly. Like it's already there. They just haven't, like, they've been operating in silos, kind of like you're saying. They just haven't put all the things together. That we do have the power and the energy already here. We have all that we need. And so it was really interesting hearing some of those ideas that he was saying. But I did tie in the Hopi prophecy thing. I sent this to Ed Reardon because in his remote viewing, he talks about that one, and I can't remember if he says a twin or one of the guys has a stone tablet. And I was like, I just saw this. That's kind of weird that Donald Trump has a full-scale replica of the Ark of the Covenant made entirely out of gold at his home in Mar-a-Lago.
That's O'Keefe right there.
O'Keefe, that's who it is. Yeah, the OMG guy. That's right. Yeah. So I don't know. There's just all these kind of points to me that are making a lot of sense right now, with where we're like either in this time shift, or we're about to be in this time shift, or we could be in this time shift, or time goes away. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's really interesting to kind of see all these different pieces of it, and then they're talking about the pole shift. Randall was talking about the pole shift, going with this, and that being possibly the catalyst. And my mom had introduced me to that idea.
Magnetic reversal. That's a YouTube guy. He goes by Diamond. Is like David Morano. He's a geologist catastrophist, and he talks about that, the magnetic, changing. Our polarity is changing. Not that the Earth crust is going to slip.
No.
But
the
suspicious observers talk about that.
Yeah.
It's the magnetic pole that changes. We see it on the sun. The magnetic pole in the sun changes. It's a cycle. It's a cyclical. It happens like clockwork. Well, maybe ours is every 10,000 years it changes. So our north and south kind of, your compass isn't pointing to true north, or it points to true north, but that true north isn't the same true north as it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago. And if
it's been magnetically altered because of things like electrical high lines that are lifted, so many feet off the ground, because then Randall goes into the math about all that. Well, if they're brought back down to the earth, then our magnetism changes, our magnetic field changes, all of that was that done on purpose?
Right. Gravitic drones comes into mind, right? With all
that
idea
exactly.
Too,
anti-gravitic drones. That's where I am. I'm like, okay, this makes so much sense.
Oh, now I got one for you on gravitic drones. This will blow you away. So this weekend I go, what? Huh? And it was an old video. It was maybe 6 months old. And people always talk about bees. They're moving their wings and they're moving so fast, but for their weight, it doesn't make sense that they can still fly. And then people have put a GPS, a tiny GPS connector on a bee, and it will fly to its point to the flowers for its pollination, and it flies exactly straight back. Even though there's wind currents and everything, it's straight back to its hive.
Wow.
It doesn't deviate. And it's like, how is this possible? Well, it has a lot to do with the the electricity currents, and that is the same homing device that whales use and other fish to go spawn, to know their same location. And when that switches, the poles kind of shift, maybe you have more beached whales or beached,
I was gonna say they've been talking about
dolphins and this kinds of things.
Does that have to do with they said the windmills have been killing the whales?
Yeah, the
The
vibration
windmills in with our gravity or the magnetization of the earth or whatever.
or just the vibration in the water is creating a
think about
problem, a sound that's altering their, it's
The
like a
frequency.
headache. Every time I go over here by Massachusetts, I'm getting a headache and I can't, my
Yeah.
sonar's not working. I don't know. But here's the thing on the bees. I went, what? Like, there's like an opening underneath their chin or jaw or whatever. And there's conversation that, okay, so the bee is flying, it's got its wings are just going at crazy speed, but is it actually creating a field with the ether that is creating a 0 point energy? It's creating a magnetic field, or call it a pressure bubble, so that it can move, faster and with less effort, less energy, from this thing that's coming out, from underneath their chins. I go, what? And this guy was using that as an example to explain how a bee can fly, because a lot of people say it makes no sense for the weight, for the speed
Especially
of their
those
wings.
big old bumblebees.
Yeah.
Have you seen some of those things? There's
Yeah.
no way.
So I was like, what? So that was tied to the gravitic drones, was how bees fly. I go,
Oh, I had heard some of the same things like applied to airplanes, that the reason airplanes, like, they don't really need as much fuel as people say. Like, you see a little fuel truck driving around the airport, and where's all this fuel that these planes are supposedly needing? Well, supposedly they like, get up high enough, and then they're like in the, I don't know if they use a field or what, but then they use these
right.
the air
currents,
air
to
currents,
helps them, but especially get a tailwind or something. But the end of they at a certain point, that you'll hear when you're flying, you'll hear when you're getting closer to your destination, the engines will slow down in an RPM, because they're almost on a glide to the airport to conserve fuel. So it's amazing.
To conserve fuel, yes.
Wow, we covered a lot, Lisa.
Yes, it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
It's something very different tonight.
Oh,
I hope everyone enjoyed it and got some information. And Jetstream. Thanks, Tom.
Jetstream, yes, thank you.
Yes,
I saw some
Mafia, the PayPal Mafia. I'm just scrolling and seeing.
Oh no, you're good. I saw somebody wishing Roger Ver a happy birthday.
Yeah, happy
today.
birthday, Roger.
So happy birthday, Roger Ver, and I do hope that you see some justice.
Yeah, please. I know some people might be scared to sign it. There's a petition out there that's freerogernow.org. Go sign it. It's maybe an act of bravery. Some people are going to say, I'm not going to sign it because he renounced his citizenship, or I'm not going to go sign it because they're going to come after me next. Well, that's just the point. If they could get him on these tax charges, like 30 years for mail fraud, that's setting a precedence. So if he goes down, we're all subject to the same problem. The same lawfare could happen to us, and who's going to help? Who's going to come save us? So we don't want this, even in his case, to become a legal precedent.
Either one of these.
Yeah.
Free Roger Now. That's why I've got it wrong.
FreeRogerNow.org,
I
right?
looked it up before because I did sign it.
But appreciate everybody in the chat. I wish I could read it all and say everything and say hello. I'll say everybody.
Yeah.
Saying it to everybody. There it is.
Yeah, so great. Thanks for joining us. You guys check that out, freerogernow.org. Happy birthday, Roger Ver.
Next week,
please. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to explain something.
Oh.
I want to explain this emperor thing.
Oh, okay.
That's crazy,
Let's
right?
talk about it. Yeah, I need a little help from the emperor.
And it's true.
Yeah.
I am the first installed elected emperor of a DAO.
Do you count yourself like emperor? Do you use Roman numerals to identify your?
It's my decision, I guess. But it's not just, I wasn't just like created a DAO and voted myself. No, there were a lot of other people that voted for this, and I was unopposed and voted unanimously. Yeah. So I am, and a DAO is a legal entity. It's crazy, right? So I'm a bona fide emperor. How about that, Lisa?
I love it.
Who would have thunk that?
I love it.
I bet my parents are saying, "We're so proud of you, son."
You've heard it here first, folks. Not first, probably. And actually, not here first. All right. Well,
we'll talk about that maybe next
time. Yeah, I'm excited. I need a little help from the emperor. I want to spruce up the lair and do some wild things with it. So we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please give us a like and share the video, and go to freerogernow.org.